6:30, let's call the meeting to order, please. If everyone would please rise, and join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Mr. Eastman, any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, under the Budget and Finance Committee report, I will be looking for a vote to move the budget forward to the warrant call. So it should have been on there, I apologize if it wasn't on there. That's it.
Thank you. Would anyone care to make a motion regarding the minutes for March 3rd?
I make a motion to accept the minutes from March 3rd.
Second.
Well, motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. All right, let's vote again, please, I'm sorry. And I got ahead of myself anyway, so. All right, and opposed? Anyone opposed or abstentions? Okay, that actually takes me to, I don't have a report, but it's come to my attention. First, I want to make clear, I am absolutely no expert on Robert's Rules of Order. I've been kind of operating under them for as long as I've been on the board, and I think I have a fledgling understanding of them, but as time goes on, I learn more and more. It has come to my attention that in all of our board votes, I am supposed to be asking people when they vote to raise their hand. In this particular case, normally you might say aye or yes or whatever. In our case, since we have weighted votes, it would always be a raising of the hand. I've never ever said that because I assumed it was understood. And if it's just the same with everybody else, rather than say raise your hand every time, if we're all under the understanding that all those in favor would mean a raising of the hands of indication. And I do need to try to, I look around and I see what looks unanimous, but I could be missing something. I will try to remember to ask for opposing or abstentions every time. So I'm going to try to work on that. I wanted to make that the procedure clear for everybody, if I could. And that's all that I have. Mr. Eastman.
Yes, a couple of things. The board does have in front of them several documents. They'll recognize them. They're tied to the goals that we had set for the year in regards to school visits, attendance, discipline, and grades. We're not talking about that today in executive session, but it's certainly some information you can look at and we can bring forward to one of our future meetings. Also, I have a hiring update since we didn't have personnel committee meeting today. I do have a hiring update. You'll notice that there are some additional positions on there from past months, and that's because we've had some resignations for next school year. Let me give you a minute to look at those. And so some positions that weren't filled this year that we're hoping to fill next year, for example, the Cave Hill interventionist position was not filled. We had to put her in grade 1, so that's why the grade 1 position's there. Grade 5 position was a similar situation where the interventionist Marianne Wheeler went into the classroom to cover, and we had Bart Berker and Sue Teenan cover those classrooms, and so we're hoping to fill that position. We do have a pre-K teacher position in the budget, and our numbers are warranting that for the Peninsula School. School counselor position for Peninsula and Earl Lewis is the position that we filled with a long-term sub this year. Music teacher at Sumner was from a resignation. Science teacher at Sumner is filled by a long-term substitute, so we're advertising that for this year. Social studies, we just received that resignation within the last couple of days. And then the health teacher at Sumner Middle and High has been open throughout the year. We've had other long-term subs filling that. I have reported previously that Whitney Crabtree was nominated for the Maine Teacher of the Year Award. Since that announcement, we were notified that she has been selected as a semi-finalist for the 2026 Hancock County Teacher of the Year. We continue to wish Whitney the best of luck moving forward in the process, as she is very deserving of this recognition. Excuse me. I would also like to recognize Mrs. Mario Edgecombe, math teacher here at Sumner, as she is the recipient of the 2026 Jacqueline Mitchell Award. This award is presented annually by the Association of Teachers of Mathematics in Maine and recognizes an outstanding mathematics educator who demonstrates a commitment to Maine's mathematical community through dedicated service, both within and outside the district. So congratulations to Mrs. Edgecombe, and she was recognized, at the Go Blue Assembly a couple of weeks ago. We do have several students who medaled at the Skills USA competition, an event where our HCTC students participated in competitions specific to their work at HCTC. I would like to recognize the following individuals. Ashlyn Horn received a gold medal as a member of the Career Pathways business team. She was a part of a business leadership and hospitality program at HCTC. Ava Richardson, a student in the Career Justice program, received a gold medal as a member of the team that participated in the Criminal Justice Quiz Bowl. Rebecca Harry Lind, a student in the Health Occupations program, received a silver medal as part of the Career Pathways Health Science team. And the last individual was Briley Gatcombe, a student in the Health Occupations program. She received a silver medal in the Health Occupations Professional Portfolio. Briley will be joining the HCTC group traveling to the national competition during the first week of June in Atlanta. So we wish Briley and the rest of the HCTC students the best of luck at the nationals. We are thrilled to share that our Sumner After School program has received a generous $1,000 donation from the Winter Harbor Women's Club in support of our new Lego Club. Thanks to their contribution, we have been able to purchase 25 Lego kits to get students building, creating, and collaborating right away. The excitement has already begun, and we look forward to expanding our collection with additional kits in the future, and we are incredibly grateful for this support. And lastly, I do want to pass along the curriculum update. And that is a document that's put together by our Director of Curriculum, Shelley Schildroth, and she distributes it every month. This is high-quality work that Shelley does to recognize things that are pertinent to staff members and celebrate staff for their accomplishments. I commend her and thank her for the continued hard work that she puts in to the district. And then I just want to make note of two dates, if you will. Next Tuesday, the Ed Programming Committee will meet here at Sumner and not at the DSF, as we normally do. And then we have scheduled, after talking with Committee Chair for Finance and Budget, Mary Copperthwaite, we have scheduled a Budget and Finance Committee meeting for 5:30 p.m. on May 26th, that's the night before our district budget meeting, at the DSF. And so at that meeting, the focus of the conversation will be financial sustainability for the district. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Next is public comment. Thank you, Carl. A reminder to speakers, it's a 3-minute time limit. If you'll approach the mic down forward. I'm not going to make, there are so few people, I'm not going to make a designation with regard to in-district or out-of-district. So up first, Edward Matthias came in from Hancock.
Hello again, thank you. Members of this body have, in bad faith, pursued the enactment of a policy inspired by outside political organizations. Backroom deals have divided us and endangered the fiscal viability of the entire district with a cumbersome and unnecessary lawsuit. The RSU24 Board Member Code of Ethics requires members to keep RSU Board business confined to the official proceedings, Section L, urges members to resist temptation and outside pressure, Section P, and asks that they make decisions from a position of tolerance and openness, Section J, and refuse to make promises as to how they'll vote, Section K. These ethical restrictions keep the board ours. One member in particular appears not to understand the importance of these guidelines. In Franklin, 1 week prior to the school board election of March 28th, the community was blanketed with postcards declaring support for Carla Young. The postcard states it was not paid for or authorized by any candidate. Yet, 3 days after the election, Carla was scheduled to appear at a Maine First activist training to discuss her electoral victory. She quickly made clear she was bound to Maine First priorities by aggressively pursuing changes to the Title IX policy. These changes prompted both backlash and a presumed groundswell of support. But like the postcards, the sources of this support were drawn from outside RSU24. 6 days after the consequential October 7th board meeting where Carla introduced a motion to realign Title IX, she was congratulated by the Mainex community on Facebook. By October 18th, Maine First was already advertising Carla's appearance at yet another activist training scheduled for November 8th. The topic? How to wage culture war on school boards. Maine First has been attempting to subvert these laws for years. As early as October 23, 2023, Lawrence Lockman of Maine First contacted his legal counsel for advice on the legality of allowing biological males to use biological female restrooms. In May of 2025, Lockman and the same counsel asked for an opinion on the constitutionality of Executive Order 14201 and guidance for Maine school districts. That legal counsel was Jack Baldacci of Steve Smith Trial Lawyers. Carla Young has pushed Maine First agendas. She used their legal framework for her motion regarding Title IX, and it should come as no surprise that on December 9th, she then moved to replace the school's legal counsel with Larry Lockman and Maine First advisor Jack Baldacci. This extreme list of ethical violations and conflicts of interest culminates in a long-planned conspiracy to subvert state law that affirmed the use of restrooms by transgendered people 12 years ago in Doe versus Clenchy, and subsequently protected their rights in school sports. Ultimately, this is a thinly veiled attempt to hijack taxpayer funds and resources to make up for Lockman's and others' inability to successfully change state law through the proper legal channels. Item R from the board members' code of ethics states, quote, I will recognize all
Mr. Cameron?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I have to interrupt you. You've reached your 3-minute time limit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, David Arthur from Hancock.
I'm David Arthur Kendo of Babylonian Ministries. I stand before you, a man who never had a childhood. Trans ideology destroyed that. My life was stolen by the lie of transgenderism. The movement that calls itself inclusive and loving targeted me, desensitized me, groomed me, and sexualized me as a child. Molested by 2 teachers. One was a part-time guidance counselor that told me I was a pretty girl. Age 13, I overdosed on pills. Age 14, I ran away from home, was sex trafficked by the trans queer movement who loved me only to victimize me. I contracted HIV/AIDS at 14, began to destroy my body with wrong sex hormones. I was the suicidal trans kid, always tossed into these debates when someone's trying to push this agenda. I sincerely believed I was a girl trapped in a boy body, lived as a trans woman for over 20 years. Everyone around me thought I was happy, being my true self. Inside, I was confused, broken, and depressed because transition and affirmation does not take away suicidal ideation or depression. It only makes it worse. Suicidal ideation is emotional blackmail. Wrong sex hormones left me sterile with osteoporosis, heart issues, and mental health complications by age 30. They ravaged my mind and my body. They caused irreversible damage. I was a ticking time bomb because of the path trans ideology put me on. By the grace of God, I've been healed of much, but some scars remain. I watch in horror as schools destroy children, secret social transitions, affirmation without therapy, exposure to explicit ideas to sexualize young minds, and the promise that hormones and surgery can fix what's inside, maiming the body for a head issue. This is not compassion for children. This is dangerous. This confuses and destroys, leaving broken souls in its wake. Schools are not equipped to play doctor with children's bodies and futures. Behind the back name changes and policies that hide truth from parents are not care. They are betrayal. And I beg you, protect these babies in the way no one protected me. Say no to grooming to the trans activist teachers and to put truth first. Put parents first. These children are only regurgitating the propaganda and lies that they've been force-fed by the trans queer activists. Do not let another generation of broken, confused children be led down the same road of destruction as I was. I know this cult inside and out. And I know this: any man that defends or pushes the trans queer agenda is suspect of targeting and preying on children. God bless you all. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, David Weeda from Bucksport.
Thank you, and I appreciate the chance to play my pipes to honor Member Noyes wearing his tartan tonight. So, I feel like I was just verbally attacked because I am a person who has been advocating for the LGBTQ community for 47 years. I'm 67 years old. I started this work when I was about 20. When school boards are asked to make decisions around personal lives and personal decisions that are made within families, it's incumbent that they allow the families to be aware of what the child is up against at the school. And if trans children are not allowed to express who they are, that's erasing them. And with the cuts to DEI, what we're seeing is the entire LGBTQ community is being silenced. I wear my silence equals death pin. That's from ACT UP. I hope you all remember what ACT UP stands for, the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power. The slogan was silence equals death. Now there's another pin that goes under that, which is action equals life. So I hope anybody in the position to take action will really read the facts. The gentleman that spoke previous to me, I have sympathy for his personal situation, but for every trans person who is feeling like they did the wrong thing at the wrong age for them, there are thousands of people worldwide throughout history. Magnus Hirschfeld did the first deep research around transgenderism and sexual orientation. And in 1923, I don't have the notes in front of me, his entire library of research was raided from his Institute of Sexuality, raided by the Nazis and burned in the streets. I bet everybody in this room has seen the video footage of a big bonfire with books on it. That was Magnus Hirschfeld's full research library of sexuality and human sexual orientation, including deep research on the occurrence and prevalence of all kinds of gender identities as well as transsexualism. Let's not go back to the point where the Nazis were trying to stifle and hide the truth about human sexuality. Children need 3 things in life. I've heard this from every child psychologist, and I've met with many of them over my years of work. Children need to be seen, they need to be heard, and they need to feel like they are visible and welcome and safe. It's not that different for adults. If we hide sexual orientation issues and transgender issues, we are destroying children's lives. Thank you for listening to me. I would like to include a flyer for each of you. It's my little things to remember at all times, not just during Pride Month.
Up next, Renee Trust from Franklin.
Hi, everybody. First, I want to thank you all for serving, and a special thanks for those of you who voted for women's rights to protect our girls in school. Apparently, the fight for this previously hard-won right continues. Here's a question. Just because a boy might declare himself a girl, why is his desire to be in girls' private spaces more important than their discomfort? What kind of impact do these types of incidents have on learning? Isn't it a distraction? What we've seen in the RSU has crossed the line of healthy learning environment when we are spending time debating whether it's appropriate to lie to children about how they were born and to encourage them to keep secrets from their parents. This is known as promoting and enabling mental illness as well as encouraging deception. Who thought this was okay? A couple of years ago, I was at one of these meetings because I had discovered there was actual pornography in the school library. This material included tutorials of sexual acts of various kinds, as well as a link to an adult website. It was quite shocking to discover that administrators and librarians thought that was okay. From what I understand, these books remain in the library, and I'm quite sure many parents disagree with this. Is this what education has come to? Sexualizing children while advancing the social contagion of gender confusion has no place in a school. Yet here we are, damaging children. This comes on the heels of mandatory masking and Zoom learning. We can do better. Right now, people in my town are struggling to make ends meet, so I hope this year's school budget is less than last year's, which raised taxes considerably. With student population decreasing, so should the budget amount. And if it isn't, then we should find ways to trim it up. Student population will continue to decrease until parents are given the confidence their kids are in capable hands within the public schools. My kids went to public school, and my grandkids are not going to public school. I would encourage the board to find cuts which reflect we are spending within our means. Also, it would be nice to provide complete transparency as to how the money is spent ahead of the public vote. If the budget reflects any increase at all, I would encourage all of you not to approve it. Thank you.
Up next, Tammy Taylor.
I'm going to finish the other one. Carly Young has been everything but an agent of the state in regards to Title IX interpretations. She's a willing agent and facilitator of outside political groups. She's beholden to her agendas, training their operatives, basking in their praise and wholly unconcerned with the integrity and financial stability of our public schools. If you truly wish to support ethical transparency, I challenge you to hold yet another member to an ethical standard you have all sworn to abide. I request a motion to censure Carla Young as it pertains to any future votes or decisions regarding the Title IX realignment. Clearly, she has acted throughout the process in bad faith, has endangered the entire school system in pursuit of agenda and politically motivated outside party. And what I have to say is, since some people may have not or choose not to read all the responsibilities of the main school board member, I will read the most important ones as it relates to the current situation. Her Maine School Board Association Handbook, Section 4, Conduct of Board Meetings. The No Surprises Rule. There is probably no quicker way to destroy the sense of teamwork and trust among board members and the superintendent than to blindside them with a proposal, accusation, or concern at a board meeting. When the board is unprepared to address an issue, no matter how important or worthy you believe it is, you are likely to be met with decisiveness and hostility. Always discuss your concerns or ideas with the board chair or superintendent before the meeting and give them opportunity to place the issue on the agenda or address it in an appropriate manner. Section 5, Conflicts of Interest. Appearance of conflict of interest. A board member should do nothing to give the impression that their position or vote on an issue is influenced by anything other than fair consideration of all sides of a question. Board members shall attempt to avoid the appearance of conflict of interest by disclosure and or by abstention. Section 8, Relations with Community. As an elected school board member, you are part of a representative government. In order to represent your school community stakeholders, you need to actively seek input, listen carefully to all viewpoints, and keep your finger on the pulse of the community. This means being in touch with all of your various stakeholders in town, not just those who have supported you. These stakeholders include parents and others who have different interests than you. But you are elected to do more than just simply mirror the wishes of your valued stakeholders. As a board member, you take an oath to uphold the laws of Maine and the Constitution of Maine and your municipality. You are also obligated to learn how much you can about issues before the board, listen to analyze competing arguments, interests, and priorities, and then use your best judgment to decide what's best for all of your constituents. Make every decision through the lens of what is best of the students and educational program. This board has lost the trust in all 9 communities. We resist, we rise up to all the families and all the failures of this public.
Okay, excuse me, I'm having a little difficulty reading this name, Sherry Downey from Sullivan.
I was just signing in.
Oh.
I'm bearing witness.
Okay, all right. Next, Tina Porter.
Thank you, Board, Superintendent Eastman, for allowing us to speak tonight. Students of this district rely on this board for the best education possible, not politics or propaganda. Visual rape, child abuse, mental abuse, the chilling effect are all great reasons you should follow Title IX of 1972, as Title IX supersedes the Maine Human Rights Act. Hodgson, MS 807052, RSU23, Baileyville, Danforth, Richmond, Jefferson all have passed their policies. Please pass this policy and protect our children. On the topic of the budget, last year Mr. Eastman said that the budget wasn't sustainable, yet here we are with an even bigger one. I think there are many places to cut. One example would be after-school buses on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I know we have a grant for some of the after-school, but some schools have to pay 35% and some pay 55%. That's a lot of waste when there are a few kids who ride those buses. I would encourage you not to vote for an increase in budget. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly tonight, Alan Sarvinas. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Good evening, Chairman Alley, RSU24 School Board. I appreciate you being here tonight. I also appreciate the gentleman over here that gave us a musical entry. It makes me want to come back, honestly. My name's Alan Sarvinas, and I hail from Topsom with my lovely and beautiful wife and 2 sons. And I'm here as the State Director for Parents' Rights in Education. I also work closely with the Maine Education Initiative, and our mission is to restore public trust and academic excellence in Maine's public schools. I'm here tonight on the basis of restoring public trust. Now, the last time I was here, and I sat right up in that chair over here, I watched democracy happen. I watched only the women, which I was disappointed in the men on the board, raise their hand to protect all students' rights to privacy, their fairness, and competitiveness. So I'm here tonight to urge you to follow through and end the charade and the backdoor bullying or whatever's going on to stop you. And I'd urge the men not to bring us back to 1972 and raise your hand with the women and protect girls' sports and spaces. Democracy is in the news over and over all the time. Well, months ago, little d democracy happened when people went to the polls. And they voted. And they put people on the school board. Months later, there was a vote. The school board directors voted in favor of implementing a policy, and that policy is not being implemented. That's undermining democracy. That's undermining democracy right here in your community. So I'm here to ask you to restore public trust, follow through, and protect girls' sports and spaces. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. That takes care of public comment for tonight. Next on the agenda, we'll move on to the business section. Up first, item 8A, revised 2026-27 school year calendar.
So you will notice that in your board packet, you do have an updated calendar. The only difference, so we did back in January, a survey of the staff. You put it in the email? So the board packet, I'm sorry, okay.
This is the one from
Before accept, yeah, so we did this on the survey with our staff, and one of the things that the staff pointed out was it would be very good if we could move one of our PD days to the day right after Christmas vacation, because it's a long vacation, and they wanted time to come back in and sort of get settled. So we had a conversation as a leadership team and made that switch, and we agreed that we'd bring it forward to the board. So it's just that one modification, I think, is changing what was originally January 15th, the PD day, to January 5th. The Monday right after Christmas vacation, thank you, Carla. Monday right after Christmas vacation, so I would look for your approval to make that modification.
I make a motion that we accept that modification as recommended.
Second.
No motion and a second, any discussion on the item? Hearing none, all those in favor of the proposed change to the calendar? Opposed or abstentions? Okay. Adoption of the superintendent evaluation form.
Yes, so in your packets, you got the superintendent evaluation form. We have divided it up by staff, admins, and board to make it more meaningful for each group that we'd be evaluating. So I'm hoping that everyone had a chance to review that. There is a minor change on the administration one, on I believe it's section 6 under leadership. The question was not included, so it was on the staff one. The question was not included, so that is the same question on all three. So Linda's going to update that. And then other than that, on the staff one, we just in the title, the first page of that evaluation form, they talk about resource management, but that section is not included for the staff to evaluate. So that one section, that one word that says resource management would be struck out. But I would like to open it up to any questions or comments that the board has regarding the form or any suggestions. And if none, we would look at a motion to adopt the superintendent evaluation. Second.
Okay. Mary made the motion. We're going to go with the motion, then we can have discussion. So Mary's made the motion. Carla seconded the motion. So discussion on this proposed change to the superintendent's evaluation. Go ahead, Carla.
Will this be emailed to the board and to staff and administration? Yes, it will be sent out in a Google format,
Yes.
I believe. And then I believe Linda gets all of the results, and then Jeff and I sit together to compile them. Is it done anonymously, or will names be attached to the surveys? It is anonymous. There's comment spots if people wanted to include their name, but it is under the assumption that it is an anonymous response.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
I have to say, I congratulate the people who put this form together. I think it went from 20 pages to 5. And it gives for those of us, you can read it online and on your emails. It does a pretty good job at evaluating the super's performance.
I just think that most of that credit goes to, she's not Miss Nickel anymore, Amy Wheaton.
Yes, that's a valid point. Having sat on that committee, Amy Wheaton's work was 90% plus of this finished product. And it was, for those of you that aren't aware, the previous tool for evaluating the superintendent was unwieldy, as Terry alluded to. It was a 20-page evaluation form that we needed to fill out in Google Docs. So if you started the process, which some of it was taking some of us a couple of hours or more to do it, and you got interrupted by something, it wouldn't let you save it. You had to go back and start the evaluation all over again. So the intent of the committee was to try to take this unwieldy form, glean the same information in a more concise and easy to understand format. And Amy's work was dead on. It was exactly what we wanted. And with some tweaks from some other people, I believe it's a much better tool.
May I just point out that Amy Wheaton is from Sorrento, where we know how to keep things short and sweet.
Any other questions, comments? If not, we will move to a vote to adopt this evaluation form. Okay, all those in favor of adopting this tool? Okay, opposed or abstentions? Okay, excellent. Mr. Eastman, new teacher nominations?
Yes, thank you. I have one name to bring forward to you, Jennifer Rainville, Sumner Middle School Resource Room teacher. Jennifer Rainville is a graduate of the University of Connecticut, where she earned a bachelor's degree in agriculture. Over the past year, she has served as a special education teacher at our Charles M. Sumner Learning Campus in a long-term substitute role. She brings a diverse professional background, including experience supporting her husband's business, as well as working with students in both school and childcare settings. She's highly organized, detail-oriented, and takes pride in ensuring that day-to-day operations run smoothly. According to her references, Jennifer consistently goes above and beyond expectations. She is proactive, creative, and quick to offer support wherever it is needed. She also has a natural ability to build meaningful connections with others and demonstrates a strong understanding of the challenges adolescents face. Based on her experience, dedication, and skill set, I recommend Jennifer Rainville for the middle school resource room position at Sumner Middle School.
I make a motion we accept the recommendation from Michael.
Second that.
Okay, motion is second to accept the superintendent's nomination. All those in favor? Opposed or abstentions? Thank you very much. Moving on to committee reports. Up first, facilities and transportation.
All right, we met on Tuesday, March 17th at 5:30. Our first item was snowplow bids, which really didn't want to think of winter again, but here we are. Sorry. I'm not together. Ella Lewis is CD Land Development for $8,500. Hayward Properties Maintenance for Peninsula for $23,000, sorry. And then we had Michael Hallam for Cave Hill for $75,000. We also had Hayward Property Maintenance for this building for $38,000. Yeah. And so those will be the bids. We had, the next item was, we had a discussion about the bathrooms again. But Janet has had some information come up, so we're gonna bring that back to the committee to talk more about that. The solar project was our next agenda. Everything is on track for that. We have confirmed with the towns, there's no building permits needed. So everything is looking good with that for the summer project. And then our next agenda item was the adult ed Town of Sullivan lease renewal. There were a few changes. The updated lease term for the next 2 years, reduction in rent from 2026 to 2027 of $1,092. So it was a 3.4% reduction from last year. A smaller second year rent increase compared to the current year. One of the changes was the thermostat to reduce it from 64 to 62, and adult ed is good with this change. And then there was a clarification for mowing the front lawn, but there's no charge to us for that. And parking spots, so we just need a motion to accept the lease for the years of 2026 to 2028.
motion to accept the lease agreement for 26-28. Wait, 27-28, what did you say?
2026 to 2028.
A 2-year
2
lease.
year.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the adult ed lease renewal agreement for years 2026 through 2028? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
That, and then the last item on our agenda was Janet went over her facilities and operation manager update. She went over everything that's been going on in all the buildings. Our next meeting is in May. I don't know if we've got a date yet, because we didn't really. No, we don't have one scheduled yet in May. So, the 19th? Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mercy. Next committee, budget and finance.
So I will take this one. You did receive in your, I think, email a copy of the budgets that we started with at the last full board meeting. And at that last full board meeting, we asked for board input in regards to cuts. The one piece of input that we received is the taxation had to be down to 9%. And I actually called the board member that made that to clarify if it was 9%, clarify if it was 9% or below 9%. And so I'm pleased to bring to you, even though it is an increase, and I apologize for that, but I'm pleased to bring to you the budgets that we have. The adult education budget stands at the $535,694.54, and that's an increase of $11,399.72. No change from the last time that we met. You also received a list of the budget cuts that we did make since the last full board meeting, and so I will just quickly go down through those. We had our plow bids in, as Mercy talked about, and those plow bids came in $21,225 under bid, so we were able to cut that out. We had a project in the budget for the high school gym floor. It was a painting project. The quote came in at $41,000, and so we nixed that project, which took out $8,000 that we had set aside for it. Out of district tuition, which is our Franklin K-8, Eastbrook Waltham 912, and Ryanville K-12 tuition that we paid to other districts. We clarified the amount that we need to put in there, and so we were able to reduce $175,000 out of there. The ELS portable stage for $9,000, Peninsula carpet to tile floor project for $7,813. We did some reconfiguring of Title I positions, switching some of the money from local back to the title money, and we were able to reduce $38,000. Scudic Institute mini conference, which is a field trip for the middle school, we were able to reduce $2,250. Same building, middle school, we reduced $3,750 for the Downey's Institute Education Center. There was a request for $2,750 for musical package and performance lights that was specific to a project with an employee that is no longer here, so we were able to cut that out. I would point your attention to special ed. That $44,978 is actually all in speech. It's not the self-contained that's listed there. It's all in speech. And I think committee members knew that was coming. Maine Outdoor School, we reduced $20,000 that we had set aside for them. And we did on Friday evening hear from Anthem, our rate increase. We had budgeted for a 15% rate increase for our staff for health insurance, and it came in at 7.24%, which was great. So that that decrease is $228,363.36. And with those cuts that we had in place there, we were able to reduce the contingency by $5,134.76. There is one increase in there because we finally got the bid from Cleanorama, and that was for finishing the gym floors or switching from an oil base to a water base, and so that did increase the quote amount by $2,860. So overall, that decrease was $563,404.12. And so you'll notice at the bottom of that page, when we started out on March 3rd, We had a 6.75% budget increase and a 10.35% overall taxation increase. And with this budget that we have in front of you, it's actually a 4.6 year-to-year budget increase and a 6.91 overall taxation increase. I would just point out, if you look at the document, the revenue and appropriations, that has a lot of numbers. If you look at the very last section, section 9, a local assessment increase, and so that's what we're asking of our communities, the $1,132,044. If you factor in that we had to budget $897,286 for wage and health insurance increases, that our tuition did go up even though we were able to make cuts. Our tuition for those Franklin students, Waltham, Eastbrook students, and Lyndale students, that overall line went up $129,273. And the nutrition budget has gone up in order to feed the kids, and so that's gone up by $165,539. And so if you subtract those three figures, the wages and health insurance, the tuition and nutrition, we actually have cut more than that by $60,000. And so we've done our best to bring a budget, and I'm a taxpayer, so I understand clearly about the increase in taxes, and so we've done our best to try and strike a balance here. Ultimately, the committee weighed in, and then the board weighed in at the last board meeting. So I put it to the board to move this forward to the next meeting, which we will do the call for warrant vote, which will take place in May.
Can I actually ask for clarification on one thing before we get a motion?
I think let's have a motion on the table, and then you can ask the question when we get to that point. How's that?
Make a motion that we move the proposed budget to the main warrant column.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions or comments?
First, I'm going to ask you a question here. You said the increase for the oil-based to water-based, was that for cleaning products? Because you mentioned the floor also, which was a cut that we had made, so I just wanted to get clarification on that.
That was for refinishing the gym floors.
So the increase, okay, because early, up at the top, we had budgeted that, is that the same as the paint for the 8,000?
That was paint alone.
Right, and then over in the line item, it said it was a cut because it was quoted at 41,000.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the Cleanorama, what is that specifically?
So two separate things. One, there's an issue with the paint in there.
Right.
If you get up close, and so they were proposing to do a project by sort of redoing the paint, taking up all the varnish, redoing the paint. When the quote came in at 41,000 and we only set 8,000, we decided we weren't going to do it. That's way too much money, so that's why we cut the 8,000 out. Totally separate on top of the paint is a varnish. So each summer they go to the gym, they varnish down. I'm not going to pretend like I know what they do, but they do a lot of work to make sure the floors are looking nice when the school starts up. And so that's the one that's down below, is the varnish that's on top of the paint.
Does it, just was my, okay, so, other than that, so I'm on the budget committee, and I was last year, and I felt very unprepared to be on the budget. If Jeff remembers, I think I requested to not be on budget because I felt so woefully unprepared. However, I'm actually glad that I'm on budget, and it's brought a few things to my attention. The timeline in which we are going over the budget is very short. It was about 2 meetings, which, even though it was explained to me last year, I guess it just didn't really click that it was truly 2 meetings, and then we went over cuts, and then we presented the budget. So this year, I spent every second I could going line by line in our budget, and I noticed some concerning spending trends. We have an ongoing issue of our timeline, so we often get to this point and then it's too late to do anything about it, so we must pass it because it's too late with the way that our process is set up. So I'm just saying that, you know, it would be better if we started sooner. And I'm not trying to be personal in any way against anything. I'm just going to bring up a couple of examples. And this isn't, you know, this is just feedback to improve the process. So there were a couple of things that I saw, and I'm told that we have a zero-sum budget, which I am assuming that means that everybody submits, this is what we need for the year based on forecast needs and projections, all of those things. However, there were some line items that I noticed were not just this year, but last year. We had underspent by $10,000. And then we're still increasing that budget line item for this year. One of those happened to be custodial supplies. And to me, you know, we have a set number of students, we have cleaning procedures, we have square footage, but we should be better projecting those costs for each school, in my opinion. And the pattern appears to be consistent over multiple years. So it just seems like there's a better way to do this to me. And consistently it seemed that when I had questions such as this, the responses I got were vague. When it comes to the budget, I would prefer that we have specificity. And overall, I just think that there's a lot of room for improvement. So as it stands right now, I can't support the budget as it is.
I just have a question regarding the out-of-district placements. Could you share the clarity that, to remove the 175, I just want to make sure that every town that has children with that out-of-district placement understand where that's going?
Yep, so we set aside money, a projection, but we set aside money for our Eastbrook and Waltham 9 through 12 students that choose to go to Ellsworth High School. We set aside money for that group. We set aside money for Yorktown, Mariahville, K through 12, and for that group. And then moving to Franklin, Franklin has school choice for grades K through 8. And so there's money set aside for that group. Does that answer your question?
Why such a big decrease?
That was merely a math issue that when Melinda, who's here tonight with us, she and I worked it out. That's what it was a math issue.
So math issue, nothing's changing.
No.
With those out-of-district
No.
placements.
Good evening. Hi. Thank you so much for all of the work that you all have done on the budget committee. I was new last year, and my choices were to vote through a budget that I knew nothing about, or to abstain from a budget that I knew nothing about, or to vote no based on the information that I had in a short amount of time to learn. So during my time last year, in speaking with the superintendent regarding the budget, I had a lot of questions, and most of them were answered. There were a few that I still didn't have a lot of clarification on. So this year, what I decided to do is, even though I'm not on the budget committee, I went to all 3 budget committee meetings back in February and again in March. And they were long, and they took quite a bit of time. And I sat there and went through each line on the budget, line by line by line, and there are probably several hundred of them. It's very detailed. Not everything is very clear on what is being spent on a particular line item. I also noticed that there were some repeatings on the line items. When I asked the question, why is this line item repeating on one budget and then it's also showing up on another budget, the response that I received was, it was in kind. So I think what is happening is that transportation has a line item for after-school busing, for I believe the 21st Century Grant, but it also shows up under curriculum. So that was a little bit confusing to me as going into my second year on the board, trying to understand why we have in our budget line items that are repeating. And I would be curious to know if that's the only place that we see that, or are there multiple line items that are repeating and being presented in a way that makes it a little bit confusing, that if someone like myself who is on the board is trying to understand the budget, why that would be occurring. So that was my one concern. My second concern is that, and you brought up a great point, Ashley, because I am looking at the report that was filled out for
the tuitions that are paid to other school districts. And the actual expenses that I show for 23-24 is $942,302.73. The next year, the actual expenses for that same line item, tuitions to other schools, showed a decrease to $927,213.83. So it looks like we had a decrease. Last year's revised budget had a total of $1.282233.86. So we had a significant increase in what we set aside in last year's budget for this line item, tuition to other schools. Currently, as of February 20th, this report was run at 1:14 in the afternoon. It shows our year-to-date actual as $302,579.57. So when we on the board are being presented these figures, we're not getting year-to-date actuals quarterly. So I think that is a change that needs to be pushed going forward. The board as a whole needs to see what the year-to-date spending is on all line items across the board. I would also recommend that every single board member become a little bit more familiar with the budget and the budget process, because if you are voting through a budget of $27,349,929.79, we should darn well know why we're spending this money when our student population is decreasing. In fiscal year 23, we had 879 students, and obviously much less in budget. I don't have the exact figure in front of me. This year we have projected from the ED 279, 717 students. So that's almost 150 students that are not coming to our schools, and our budget is going up. Now, I understand that there have been negotiations made with teachers, and we're paying our teachers a lot more, and I am for it 1,000%. I love teachers. I think they're the best thing in the world, because I have taught my own kids and I've taught other kids, and it's not easy. I had a child come to my co-op class with a snake and sell it to his buddy for $100. And I thought to myself, we can't be having snake purchases during PE class. This doesn't work. So I get it. I totally understand. However, when we received the cuts for the budget back in March, it was presented that we are going from 1.5 million, 1.586 and change, and they're going to drop it to 175. I asked the same question that Ashley asked. Where did those students go? What happened? That's approximately 11 students. Did they graduate? Did they disappear? Where did they go? And the question that I got answered was, we just did the math. We just refigured and looked back in time and saw that we didn't need to have that much money in that line item. Well, right now as it stands, without any additional cuts to that line item, we're at $1.411,519.62. It sounds like it's a little bit padded, in my opinion. So my question is, and I've got 4 minutes left because per Robert's rules I get 10 minutes to speak, and I just want to ask a few questions based off of the budget, based off of what I pulled up on the main DOE website. So I'm all about statistics and stats, and I know that you are as well, because you've been doing this 25 years. And I know that you are interested in student improvement and overall scores. So based off of the scores for language arts in our district, this is just RSU, we are at or above expectation levels at about 60, actually I have it right here, we're running at about 62.3% at or above state average. State average is 64.3. So we're 2 points below state average. Math, we're at 42.2% at or above state average, and state average is 48.5%. That's a 6.3% gap that we're below. In science, we are at 28.4% at state average. State average is 37.1%. That is 8.7 points below state average. As we all know, the state of Maine is not doing great right now with education. We're in the bottom 10.
I would imagine that most people would agree. However, some of the feedback that I'll hear is that parents don't care, parents aren't showing up, parents aren't helping, parents are the problem. Would you say the same thing to the parents in Mississippi, that they care about their kids more than we do here in the state of Maine? They're in the top 10 for reading. What is Mississippi doing that we are not? So my question is I struggle with this budget because a lot of the items that are in it, I have asked for. I have asked for, I'm sure we probably got these microphones because when I first got on this board, I couldn't hear what anybody was saying. So that's probably just being older, too many concerts as a young person, I don't know. I couldn't hear, so we had to pay for these. Communications in an emergency, I requested after our last lockdown earlier this year. Is there a way for us to be able to communicate? That's on the budget. There's curriculum changes that have been made that we've asked for, so I am a part of making the budget go up. I know that. However, our job on the school board is 3 things. It's policy, it's the superintendent, and it's budget, financial reports, and audits. That's it. So if the board is not educated in what is the money is being spent on, I just don't know how we can move forward a budget that has an increase in budget with a decrease in student population. Are we confident that the board is familiar with the ED 279, state funding versus local? Does anyone happen to know what our state funding formula is versus what the local appropriation is? I'll tell you, state funding is supposed to be at 55% and 45% local. We're currently right now at 29% state funded, 71% to local. So what do I tell my Franklin residents? What do I tell them with a 12% increase over last year's budget that wasn't sustainable? I have 1 minute left. We're talking about a sustainability meeting and I'm all for it, but the sustainability meeting should have happened months ago. And I appreciate all the work that you've done because I've sat in these meetings and it's arduous, it's hot. We're all sitting in there together, everyone's talking about their needs, and I understand. But what results can we guarantee our stakeholders for the amount of money that we're asking for the kids? If we're really here for the kids and their education, what are we doing to support their curriculum and their education?
I will try to see if I can unpack a little of that. You may have to remind me of some stuff, Carl. With regard to the state paying 55%, the state will tell you that they do pay 55%. And the reason they will tell you that is because if you take the total cost of money spent across the state of Maine and the state's contribution to it, it is 55%. But it is as a result of the EPS funding formula that communities like ours are essentially punished for having shorefront property that has a high valuation and relatively low, not just relatively low, but declining student counts, as you alluded to. So it wasn't that many years ago, I'm gonna say 10 or 12 years ago, when the state was paying about 12% of our total budget. So the fact that we're up to 29, while it's horrific and ought to be embarrassing for people in Augusta, is an improvement over where we were not that long ago. It puts an undue burden on our local communities, and of course, as a result of changes in Augusta in our in a prior gubernatorial administration, our towns no longer have access to some of the revenue sharing that was a revenue sharing program from Augusta, so that towns got a portion of sales tax and excise taxes that we paid to the state that we used to get some back. We don't get any of that anymore. There also was a change, ballpark, 10 or dozen years. It was during Paul Page's administration all these happened. The legislature decided that they would end their policy that had existed since the beginning of the program, their policy of paying the district's share of teachers' retirement into the main retirement system. They put that burden on to school districts, which in year one of that happening, if I remember correctly, was ballpark $430,000 to this district. And we continue to carry that every year. So just in that one situation, we had a shift in a loss of revenue and added cost from Augusta that we had no control over whatsoever. And of course, our only recourse is property taxes. We don't have the option to use income taxes, excise taxes, sales taxes to defray the cost of any of this. So it's an unfair and unrealistic expectation, I believe, for Augusta to expect communities like ours to continue to shoulder this burden when more affluent communities like Kennebunkport, Cape Elizabeth, Falmouth continue to get increases in state subsidy every year and have, if you were to walk through the school facilities in any of those communities and compare them to your own, accepting obviously this new, I mean, we actually are pretty fortunate. We have two relatively new buildings in this district. The one down the road is only 16 years old. So that's been a pinch. That part of it I can address. With regard to understanding the ED 279 and local versus EPS funding, I understand it. I can't speak to whether other board members understand it. What I would say, I guess, I'm not going to defend it. I can't argue it. Board members should know that. And I guess my feeling is if board members don't understand that, then probably they should come into the DSF and ask some questions. If you are dissatisfied with the answers to those questions, I would think that would be the kind of thing that would be reflected in the superintendent's evaluation. Aside from that, I don't know. I think we're here now to discuss this budget, and it seems, and I'm not opposed to having a discussion at all about the process, but having a discussion right now about the process for this budget, when we do have a need very shortly to have a budget to bring forth to voters at the budget meeting and then a referendum. It seems this discussion is something we ought to have had earlier. I'm not criticizing us. I'm not criticizing you for not suggesting it earlier. You might have suggested it earlier. But I can't answer, and I don't know if anybody can answer all of the questions or concerns that you have with regard to this budget. Some of the specific questions, maybe early on, there was a question that I thought perhaps that would be a relatively easy answer to. I don't remember exactly which one it was. There may be some that are easy answers, and maybe we can get those. I mean, Melinda's here. I don't want to put her on the spot. I don't know if she brought her budget with her. She doesn't have a budget with her, so she's not going to be able to look through that. But I agree we should have, if you have answers, if you have questions, you should have answers to the questions. I regret that you waited until now to ask those questions rather than going into Mike's office a week ago and asking those questions. That's the only concern that I would have, is that now we're in a position where we either vote this budget down tonight because there are some people that have questions, which then puts us at, we can bring it back, but we're going to have a special meeting because we've got to bring it back in a week or two. So I know I haven't answered very many of your questions, but I have said, I guess, the things that I feel I can say with regard to that. Does anybody have anything else that they want to add to that, or you look like you're bringing it in?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is at the last Finance and Budget Committee meeting, I'm pretty sure it passed 3-0, did it not, to move forward? Yeah, so I'm a little surprised by the comments and the reaction, because it did pass 3-0 through the committee, and that the leadership team, some of which are here, worked hard to put that budget together. What I will say, this is my 11th year as superintendent, and every year I gotta go back to this budget because it is complicated work. There's nothing that's easy about this. And to start earlier so that we could be done earlier, or to stretch it out longer, I would look at the team, and we're already starting the conversation in November, so school's been in session for 2 months, and we're already working on the next budget. That's a challenge, and so, but if that's the will of the committee, then we certainly need to have those conversations. And I would just echo, I mean, the committee did, I thought, some pretty difficult work and asked some good questions, and came into the meeting that we were in a pretty good place, not that we're being unanimous, but that we were in a pretty good place. So ultimately, as Jeff alluded to, we're on a timeline at this point, and you know, the budget, I think I spelled out where I think the specific increases are that match the overall increase to taxation, but it's the board's decision on how we proceed. Thank you.
I would like to just point out that one of the things that concern me about this budget, which I do intend to vote for, is that there was an increase in the expense we've set aside for legal services. It went from $17,500 to $30,000. My only suggestion is that probably is nowhere near enough to cover the court costs that we are going to incur by putting out a policy that violates the Maine Human Rights Act and Title IX. I think that's going to prove to be a much more expensive proposition than $30,000.
Anyone else? One thing that I would like to say about this budget, or budgets in general, the cost of everything is not going down. We may have a decline in student count, but I believe our student count this year is down from last year about 15, 20 students. If you take 15 kids and divide them across 14 grade levels, that's pre-K to 12, you're losing basically a kid in class. You don't, it's not like you eliminate a teacher because your class goes from 13 to 12. It's not like you save a bus run. Not like you save a bus run because you take one kid off or two kids off. And it's not like it costs any less to heat the building or light the building, clean the building, maintain the building, just because you reduce it by 15 or 20 kids. Now, there are reasonable questions to be asked about that will be brought up when we have our budget, the longevity workshop. You know, where do we see this going? There are some questions that are reasonable to ask. But the way our district is structured right now, there is a limitation to how far you can reduce these things without cutting staff, which is going to have a detrimental impact on students, without significantly altering bus routes, which might put kids on the bus for an hour or an hour and a half. We have kids on the bus an hour and a half or more, potentially. So the question that you need to ask is, will the cuts that would be necessary to realize an actual savings in local assessment, is it worth the impact that it might have, the detrimental impact that it could have on students? I think those are questions that need to be asked But I know that our administration and our leadership team, they're not going to approach a budget and say, you know, I think I could save $300,000 if I cut 2 teaching positions and make 2 multi-age classrooms. And the reason I think they're not going to do that is because they know that that's going to have a detrimental impact on students. It's going to have and if you're already concerned about student success and student achievement, creating situations where you provide us a subpar educational environment are not going to improve those. So it becomes a question at some point, where does our larger community place its values? Do we place a high value on education and trying to provide the best opportunity for students? Or do we place a higher value on trying to find ways to economize that may have a detrimental impact on students? And I'm not saying that any cuts would do that. That's why I want to have the discussion. But I think that those are questions that we need to evaluate as a larger community. Actually, Katie was first, Carl. But, yeah, go ahead, Peter.
I have a few things I would like to say, but I feel like they're likely just things that we will rehash at a sustainability meeting. So they may not be pertinent at this moment. However, I would like to let you know that I was not trying to surprise you. I voted to bring this to the board because it seemed as though that was the will of the subcommittee. And I asked my questions. I did try to reword them to get more specific answers, and that's just where I'm coming from tonight. It's nothing personal. It's just it's our duty to be diligent about the budget, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, Carl.
So just piggybacking off of what Katie said, just the due diligence of the money that we're spending, and if it's literally the jobs of the boards, the board that's sitting up here is to be fiscally responsible with the money that we're spending. So I look forward to the sustainability meeting. I will be voting no tonight on the budget. I'm sure that's no surprise to any of you because I voted no last year. Please don't take it personally. It's no reflection on anyone in particular. It's just how I see things going being a business owner and seeing the business that we run here in this district. We are running a business, and our business is education, and we need to make sure that we are educating the kids to Mississippi standards, top 10. I don't want to be competing against the state of Maine the state of Maine average. I want to go above and beyond. So I want to make sure that those dollars, even if our budget was $30 million and we were hitting all of those benchmarks, I would approve the budget in a heartbeat because our kids would be benefiting 100%. So one last question. If the budget doesn't pass tonight, what happens next? Thank you.
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, there is a timeline. We were hoping to come to the next meeting for the actual warrant call. It's a long vote that you all sign signatures on. If it doesn't pass tonight, then we're going to have to do some serious work, but we also need a little more direction on where all the board would like us to take action. What I would offer is that you have a leadership team that has worked their tail off and that you've entrusted to put a budget together that reflects the needs of the students. And so what you have in front of you, yes, it's higher, but it does reflect the need of the students. And so we'd have some work to do. We'd have to meet again and figure that out. I can't imagine, I can already see how that meeting would go. So it would be some sort of work I would need to do to build people back up and figure that out. So I'll leave it with that.
Chair.
Yeah, go ahead,
I'd just like to say that the so-called business of public education is in fact not a business. A business has the right or at least in a private school education, has the right to reject a student with disabilities. The public school has the obligation to bring in every student who wants to attend, regardless of their disability or ability. The disparity between what some students cost and other students cost can be tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this is not a business. This is not a profit and loss operation. This is an undertaking these communities undertake to educate their children. And the problem that the budget committee has is putting a price on the future. And I think that is one of the most difficult things. I've described the public education system as an almost impossible job. Imagine trying to run a business where every year, halfway through the year, you have to come up with your next budget and you have no idea whether the budget is going to pass. You have no control over, for instance, the health insurance costs of your staff. There are items, the increase in the fuel costs that we've all undergone in the last month or two. These are things that the school system has to try to manage over things which they have no control over. And yet they are obligated by state law to provide the best education possible for all students. Not just the best and the brightest, but for every kid that comes to school. So my sense is that the budget committee has done the absolute best they can, made unbelievably hard decisions, and they will continue to do so to the best of their ability.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving this budget to move forward to the warrant vote next month, please raise your hand. Opposed? $5,009 to $2,750. The vote carries. And another thing I learned in my parliamentary procedure, I'm supposed to announce the margin. 5,009 in favor, 2,750 against. So this will move forward to the warrant vote at next month's meeting. We'll have a full layout of the budget and 1 million papers to sign. We'll talk about how we're going to do that, by the way. We're not doing that the same way we did last year. And if it makes it past that meeting, it will then go to the district budget meeting, which we would hold that in Mountain View probably. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, great. All right. And then eventually the referendum if it were to pass that. So anyway, next item on the agenda is a vote for an executive session. Would anyone care to make that motion?
I make a motion we enter executive session pursuant to NRSA Title I, Section 504(6)E for the purpose of seeking legal counsel from Attorney Jack Baldacci.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
I have a question.
Okay.
Didn't we have first policy decisions to make?
Following this.
Oh,
Following
after
this
this.
executive
Okay,
session.
sorry.
All those in favor? For the executive session, whether or not to go into executive session, correct? Opposed? pretty sure it's 2/3. Now I'm questioning everything. Well, those in favor, please raise your hands again. Yeah. Fifty-five, 61 in favor, 1670, is that correct? 1670 opposed? 65, 61 in favor. 1198 opposed. So we will be adjourning to executive session. We will be entering executive session. If anybody's interested, we're going to take a 5-minute break before, and we'll be meeting back here. Okay. Okay, next item on our agenda, committee reports, beginning with policy.
Thank you. The policy committee met on March 17th, 2026 at 6:30 at the DSF. We called to order at 6:31. There were no adjustments to the agenda. We did consider several policies for revision. There are 3 that are for revision that are on the agenda, but they are going to be sent back to the policy committee for further review and modification. Those 3 are JLF-E, Suspected Child Abuse and Neglect Report Form. The other one is JKF-R, Disciplinary Removal of Students with Disabilities Administrative Procedures. And the third one that we will not be updating tonight and going back to the committee is the BCC Nepotism Policy. And if it's okay with the board, I would like to, for the other policies for revision, group them together as a collective, and I will go through the changes that we did for those. So the first one that...
Is everybody comfortable with doing revisions as a block? Okay.
Thank you. So the first one is JJIBA, Hiring and Evaluation of Coaches. For this one, we made grammatical corrections, such as changing coaches to coaching. The athletic director was added as an additional responsible party alongside the superintendent. Language was added stating that the athletic director, in consultation with the superintendent, may retain a current coach following a successful evaluation. And then there was a question about the abbreviations for UMO and MCSC. And I have that here, that it is, it was struck through on there under, it said any Maine Principals Association required training in including the UMO-MCSC Maine Coaching Eligibility course or its equivalent, and that has been struck through. So those abbreviations are no longer part of the policy, so thank you for that clarification, Mr. Eastman, on that one. And those were the only changes made to the JJIBA hiring and evaluation of coaches. The next policy for revision is JKF, disciplinary removal of students with disabilities. With that, no changes were recommended, and the policy was reviewed as presented and moved forward for the board. The next policy is JLIE, student automobile use and parking. For this one, grammatical edits were made, including the removal of an underlining. Language was added requiring permission from the building administrator or assistant building administrator for students to leave school grounds during the school day. We added the abbreviations BA and ABA throughout the policy, and those were the only changes we made to that policy. The next one is GCOA, supervision and evaluation of professional staff. The term formal evaluation was replaced with summative evaluation throughout the policy. References for personal file were changed to electronic file. And paragraphs outlining the evaluation process must be developed and implemented were removed. Language was added stating that the RSUB must approve the performance evaluation and growth system. And those were the only changes to that policy. The next policy is JLDBG, reintegration of students from juvenile correctional facilities. And for this, the previously omitted reintegration guidelines, their items A through I were added. And the guidelines clarify the superintendent's responsibilities under MRSA 15, section 33087E. They specify the limited information to be provided and note that the information shall not become part
of the student's educational record. This information is to be regarded as confidential, except as provided in 20-A MRSA 1055, Section 11. And that was the only change for that one. The next one for revisions is BDG, School Attorney and Legal Services. This policy was updated for inclusivity with they replacing he, she in the last paragraph, and that was the only change. And then the last one for revision is JLFA, Child Sexual Abuse Prevention and Response. This policy was updated as follows. Designee was replaced the designated agent. School counselor was changed to guidance counselor, and RSU replaced school throughout. So with that being said, those are all of the policies that we looked at for revision that are not being sent back to the committee for review. If the board pleases, I would take a motion to accept the policies for revision in a second, and we could discuss any changes or modifications.
I make a motion we accept the policies for revision, as recommended by the committee.
Second.
A motion and a second, any discussion?
Yeah, I've raised the question again that I raised a little bit ago. What is to prevent a teacher or a coach, a member of the faculty or someone in whatever position they're in with the school who disagrees with certain of our policies from being disciplined or fired for not following those policies?
So your question is, what would we do in those situations?
Yes, and what is our liability in that case?
Well, I mean, a lot depends on what the policy is and what the actions are of the employee. With every employee situation, it comes to me, I work with human resources, we bring in the attorney if necessary to make sure that we're handling it correctly.
May I ask, did any of the resignations that you mentioned earlier in the meeting take place as a result of any of the policies that we might be considering? You
Yes.
mentioned that there were several teachers who resigned or were going to resign at the end of the year.
Yep, one did, yes.
As a result of a policy?
Yes.
I see.
Any more questions? Okay, all those in favor of approving these policies for revision? Opposed? Abstention? Okay,
Right, next we have two policies for second read and adoption. The first one is JFABD-R, Education of Homeless Students. And there were no additional revisions made for this policy, so the committee is recommending that JFABD-R be adopted for second read and formal adoption.
I make a motion that we accept JFABD-R, Education of Homeless Students, for second read and adoption. Seconded.
motion and second, any discussion? Carrie, no, your mic is still on, just let me know. Okay, no questions or discussion? All those in favor of adopting policy JFABD-R, Education of Homeless Students? Opposed? Abstention?
And the next policy that we have for second read and adoption is AC-R, Title IX alignment. We did discuss this policy, and we did further discuss this policy, and I wanted to read what we currently have for policy AC-R in its entirety. So Title IX alignment is the title of the policy, and it states it is the policy of the Regional School Unit Number 24, RSU Board, to follow all state and federal laws applicable to schools. Based upon the Executive Order 14201, the RSU understands that Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972
requires that schools recognize only two sexes, biological male and biological female. The RSUB further understands that Title IX requires the RSU to provide athletic opportunities in private spaces for students separated by biological sex. The RSUB is committed to bringing the RSU into compliance with Title IX while complying with the Maine Human Rights Act to the extent that it does not conflict with federal law. After much discussion, the committee has recommended that we adopt this policy, but for implementation to be July 1st of 2026 to allow for further clarification to be made, some questions to be answered, and to allow opportunities for admins and others to make arrangements as needed. So the committee would be looking for a motion to accept policy AC-R for second read and adoption with implementation on July 1st of 2026.
I make a motion that we accept policy AC-R Title IX alignment for adoption on July 1st of 2026 for second read and adoption.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Go ahead.
I think we are voting on a policy that violates federal law and violates state law. I refer back to a policy that the Supreme Court, a case the Supreme Court decided, Brown versus the Board of Education. I may be one of the few people here who was alive in the years preceding Brown versus the Board of Education, when it was illegal in many states for children of color and children of the so-called white complexion to play together, to dine together, to go to school together. And the Supreme Court decided that that was no longer permitted. We are instituting something similar that says there are certain children that we will be discriminating against. That's a violation of federal law, and in addition, we are violating the Maine Human Rights Act, for which we are being sued. And in a time when budgets are tight, we are looking at liabilities, let's just put it that way, that I think will cost these communities immensely, not just in financial terms, but in moral terms. So that's what I think.
Anybody else? All right, well, I'm going to say this one little bit, I guess. I voted in opposition to the resolution back in both October and December. My arguments both times were the same. I don't believe it is the purview of school boards to make law or to interpret law. I think that's the job of the courts. I think it's our job to enact laws and to do our very best to keep ourselves out of court. However, this board has passed a resolution twice to comply with federal law in Title IX as interpreted by the President's Executive Order 14201 that defines sex as male and female as determined at conception. It really doesn't matter whether or not I agree with that resolution at this point. The board has voted in favor of adopting that resolution. It would be, in my estimation, we would not be acting appropriately as a board if we continue to delay the adoption of policies to comply with our own resolution. So for those people that are gonna be confused about why I voted no in October and December, and why I am going to vote in favor of adopting this policy tonight. That explains my position on this. At some point in time in the future, this will get ironed out in courts, and we're either gonna be wrong or we're gonna be right, and in either case, there are going to be, we know, there are going to be students who are going to be detrimentally impacted by whatever action we take or don't take. There are going to be students who are going to be detrimentally affected when we adopt this policy, if we adopt this policy. We also know, because we've heard the voices of students who were concerned about their rights, their privacy rights, in regards to bathrooms and locker rooms, and their protections in competition when it came to sports. So we know that there's a possibility, I'm not gonna say a likelihood, a possibility that we would have a great number of students who might be detrimentally impacted should we have acted in the opposite direction. So I feel as though we're really in someone said between a rock and a hard place. I don't believe there's a very good right answer here. If nobody has anything else to say, I've said my piece. And so, go ahead.
Yeah, I just would like to remind the board that it's my job to do this, that there is potential financial implications by the board's actions that we'll have to sometimes, but yeah, leave it at that. Thank you.
So if there are no other concerns, comments, questions, we will move to a vote. Please leave your hands up so that Linda can get counted. All those in favor of adopting policy ACR Title IX alignment for implementation July 1, 2026, please raise your hand. Those opposed? And abstentions? Okay, the motion to adopt the policy has passed. 4,966 votes in favor, 2,455 votes in opposition. 338. And 238 in abstention. Okay, board review of meeting. Who wants, Mary, you're going to start tonight. How's that?
Well, I'll start with, please share with Whitney Crabtree that we're extremely proud of her being a semi-finalist, and also to Ms. Edgecombe for her award, and to all the students that participated in the Skills USA competition through HCTC. I always love hearing about all the awesome things that the staff and the students are doing, so thank you for sharing that, and congratulations to them.
Jen?
I'm good.
Ashley?
I just want to, Carla, you mentioned a lot of great points when you were discussing the budget, but when you're comparing our academics to national standards and other districts in the state, I really hope that you're looking at our annual progression, because it is progressing in the right way. So I just don't want to take away from what the district is actually doing to increase outcomes for all of our kiddos.
Here.
I just want to say that, again, going back to the 1950s, there were many students, both students of color and not, who were made uncomfortable by Brown versus the Board of Education, and many parents. And many of those parents decided that their solution was to withdraw from the public school system and start private schools for whites only. That is always an option. The fact that some students are made uncomfortable with accepting other students is something we need to deal with and look at. I just want to read a brief poem that I heard on public radio. It was written by a Russian poet of protest under Putin. I stand with those who sit without light. I stand with those who sit in the dark. I stand with those who hide in their houses, afraid to go out. And I stand with those who are afraid, but who stand in the light, who brave the dark, who dare leave their houses to walk in the streets of this world.
Okay. I'll go next. I mean, if I wait till last all the time, it seems weird. I want to echo what Mary had said. Kudos to Marielle and to Whitney. I also I want to make sure that I pass this along. You're going to get emails about it from Shelley if you haven't already. But at Ed Programming next week, there's going to be, I don't even know exactly what, she had a word for it, and I can't think what it was, but there's going to be a walk around of the high school, a gallery, where there's an opportunity for not just the Ed Programming Committee, but the entire board to come in and see some of the things that are going on in the classrooms. So we'll give you a little better sense of where the rubber meets the road. And Marielle's putting it together in concert, excuse me, with a couple of the teachers. I think it will give some valuable insight, and if nothing else, it's a chance for our teachers to show off the work that they do. They do good work, the students do great work, and we should celebrate it. So I want to make sure that everyone is aware that that's happening, and come to Ed Programming next week, see that. And that's all I have. Mercy.
I just want to say, I think sometimes this stuff that we discussed tonight with the policies gets kind of negative attention, but we have so much positive with these kids here. I had my son's parent-teacher conferences this afternoon and walking these halls and speaking to the teachers. We're doing great things here, and I feel like the positivity doesn't get out there enough. And thank you for our teachers and our staff. We're really truly fortunate for the staff we have in this district.
I just wanted to echo congratulations also to Whitney, and I agree very much with what Mercy has said as well. And Marielle, Ashlyn, Ava, Rebecca, and Briley. I think that's what you said, Mr. Eastman, not Briley, okay. And I wanted to thank the Winter Harbor Women's Club for their donation, and as well a big thank you to Amy Wheaton for compiling all the information that we collected and tweaking the evaluation tool to meet our needs so that it's both concise and a thorough evaluation of the superintendent.
I think Mercy said it really well. I mean, we have so much good stuff that's going on in their schools, and it really does get overshadowed by the other stuff. And I also want to say congratulations to Ms. Crabtree, Ms. Edgecombe, and all the Skills USA participants and award winners.
What everyone said was perfect, and I agree with you, Ashley. We are making changes, I believe, with the right people in Ed Programming. It's really making a difference in the curriculum and how we're shifting things and removing some technology out of the classrooms, especially for the younger kids. And I really hope that we push forward for that even more, and getting kids back into some handwriting, getting them outside to play more, and I think that would be really important. I also want to reiterate
that we live in one of the best countries on earth that has the First Amendment right. And it gives everyone the right to come and say whatever it is that you want to say at these meetings. So I appreciate the First Amendment and the people that show up to criticize. God bless you all.
Okay. As is the norm, I'm not gonna read future meetings, because they're right in front of you. I would accept a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion, we adjourn.
Seconded.
All those in favor? Opposed? Everybody have a good night. Drive safely. There was a little snow. The roads might be slick.